I got up to try and, like prompt them to leave.
Better than Netflix.
I'm good. How are you? Good. I tried to be the leader of the pack. It just goes to show you.
Welcome to I always say, "I'll be a huggy." And then for the other day.
Out of here. Out of here. Know the kids' names. I'm always impressed.
No game tonight?
No game tonight.
I mean, it was mentioned in the paper or in that article. That was a nice
It was
article
a nice
that
article.
mentioned him.
Matt's got a little mention. I loved it. All right.
I told you, Mary Ann,
Okay.
I take care of you.
This is it though.
No icicles coming off the
Ooh.
vents
I
today.
start just in case. Actually.
Oh,
Oh.
I can
Put my
understand that.
jacket on it.
I know once when I first started at DOT, we were still drawing things by hand.
Oh, we're waiting for it.
We're looking at Saturday. We had to do that, so-
Are you gonna be lonely tonight?
What? Okay.
Gonna be what?
It's gonna be
I am
lonely.
gonna be lonely. I'm gonna be-
Well, I was.
We're not gonna help, well, you don't have to help Brian with his.
I know Brian can read his screen and stuff on his own.
Crazy.
He's not gonna need, you're not gonna need tech support, are you?
I'm
I
glad
mean, I'll
you're here.
help, but
Glad you're here though. Because otherwise it'd be coming my way.
I know. It's fine. It is.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of flag, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Let's do roll call. Mary Ann,
Here?
Maisha, Scott,
I'm here.
Brian,
Here.
Danny. Here. Peter,
Here.
and I am here. Dirk is excused tonight. May I have a motion and a second to approve roll?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments on the agenda? We'll be voting on it next week. Seeing none. Minutes from the previous meeting. Any comments? We'll also be voting on that next week. Okay. Communications. Anybody have communications?
I heard from a couple parents about how much they enjoyed the District Music Festival. They liked the venue. They thought that was really an elegant place to put it. So,
Lovely. Anybody else? All right, unfinished business, we have none. Dr. Genestri, you're up.
Thank you, Mrs. Battaglia. We have a few things for the superintendent's report tonight, but first, we wanted to welcome our friends from Heritage Heights that have recently gained Lighthouse status under the Leader in Me program. We know what a heavy lift to get that certification and that status is. And we are super excited to welcome Mr. Perry and some friends here tonight to talk about what they went through and how they achieved this after a lot of effort and a lot of people involved in making this happen. So we couldn't be more proud of the folks at Heritage Heights and what they're doing. And we definitely wanted to recognize them tonight. So wanted to invite Mr. Perry up and in the group and talk about what's happening. And I have the slideshow, so you
All right.
let me know. You give me the.
Jen doesn't want to come up, but she's right over there. So I just want, I won't do a lot of talking here, but I just want to say, as Dr. Genestri said, I'm very proud to be a part of this group. And this represents just a few people who have really been a huge part of the journey to become a Lighthouse School. It's a long process, but it started, I would say years ago, and it's been really a collective effort of many people who have been a part of this, many seasoned teachers who are not here tonight. I have to say Maggie McDonald and Acel Glorioso. It started there and it's led up to the present day. So it's kind of went from the older generation to the newer generation. And it's been a group effort from our adult Lighthouse team to our student Lighthouse team to our parent Lighthouse team. And I think one of the challenges we had in doing this celebration was to keep it at a certain amount of minutes. Right? I don't think they were very happy with me that I kept saying to keep it at a certain amount of minutes because they have so much passion and so many things to say. So with that, I'll step aside and let them kind of do their thing.
You can go to the next one too. I'm Kaylee Humbert. I'm a first grade teacher at Heritage Heights. I have been a Lighthouse advisor with Emma Mulcahy for the past 3 years. And during our time as advisors, we have had the opportunity to work closely with our Leader in Me coach, Gary McGooey. And he's really been a very integral part in our journey of becoming a Lighthouse school. As Mr. Perry said, this has been going on for years before we were even hired in the district. So Mr. McGooey has been around. He was able to show us, where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going. So that's been a huge role to help us see where we need to go each year. So actually in the summertime, we started working on our evidence binder and gathering years of data and information to share how we have become a Lighthouse school. And one of the best parts about it was that a lot of the things we were sharing, we were already doing anyways. So it's been a fun journey to learn together and learn with our teachers and students about ways to integrate this into our daily routines. So up on the screen, we just have a few examples of some things that we have going on school-wide to involve students and staff in diverse leadership opportunities in our school building. We also have linked our evidence binder and the review team process from when they came to visit us in November. So once we submitted all of our evidence to the review team, we were really happy with the glows and grows that they had to share with us when they came to visit Heritage Heights in November.
Next one.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Emma Mulcahy. So from our review report, we just got some glows and grows things based on their rubric, and everything was categorized into the sections of leadership, culture, and academics. The great thing is that everything on this list, especially our grows, were things that we kind of knew that we were going to work on, and things that we know that we can improve and continue to work on for the coming school years. Our big lows that we were proud of in leadership were our principal and coordinator development, and then also our new and ongoing staff learning that we have provided as a Lighthouse team for our staff. In culture, they were really impressed with our physical environment, all of the student artwork within the building on the walls, and our social emotional environment. Our Lighthouse and Action teams, they were able to meet with our student Lighthouse team, which you'll hear from Olivia in just a few minutes, and they were able to also see all of the leadership roles happening in all of our classrooms. In the area of academics, they were really proud of our school-wide WIG, our WIG goal that we have this year, and our leadership notebooks. They were able to see one leadership notebook from each grade level and actually talk to a student about what was in their leadership notebooks. And for grows, they want us to keep working on our family and community partnerships, which we have started that Parent Lighthouse team. And so that's something that we know we will continue to work on. Student voice, they said, because there can always be more of that student facilitated instruction. And then our individual WIG goals. So not only having school-wide goals, but then also allowing students to have personal WIG goals. So those were just some of the glows and grows they gave us. And again, that feedback was really important for us moving forward and working with Mr. Magui to kind of continue on as this is an ongoing process.
Hi, I'm Olivia Chandra. I'm 4th grade and I'm in the Student Lighthouse. So a Student Lighthouse team helps to make our school a better place. We helped our school with our Why Are We Important goal, which is to grow as a reader. We are also starting to use emotional bank accounts. An emotional bank account is like giving a compliment, which is like giving money to another person or making a deposit. This is a Panther ticket. So how it works is you'll write who you're giving it to, and then you'll write a compliment, and then you'll write your name. And also I made this on Canva. During our Lighthouse review, we showed the review team the most important parts of our school. We showed them our action team board and our WIG tracker bulletin board. We also showed them our art gallery, which shows our school's artwork. During the review, some students showed their leadership notebooks. They showed what they're most proud of. The review team also interviewed the Student Lighthouse team. They asked us about the 7 habits and how we help our school. Thanks for listening.
So how great is that? I mean, I don't know what else to say, right? There's no better example of how we feel that the 7 habits are empowering our students than what you just witnessed a moment ago here. And as you know, Emma and they have both talked about, Kaylee have talked about here, you know, it's a process and it's not a journey that has ended. To me, it's just beginning. I know this is something the district has really, embraced. And I think this is something that is worth embracing because it's a way to unify, the community of school and community of parents. And as they talked about as well, we have a group of parents who are very excited about this, led by Lauren Melber. And these parents have just recently did a project, school-wide project, and it's called a vision board. And on this vision board, you can turn it, I think it's on the next slide there. the vision board, really what it does is kind of their kickoff to really begin implementing the 7 habits into the family, right? Because we talked about, we want to have that connection. We want to have that kind of 2 parallel worlds between school and home, right? We're speaking the language of 7 habits at school, but when they go home, they're also hearing this. So we started out with vision boards where students are able to talk about what they want to do in the future, and they implemented the 7 habits into it. And this is a way to get it into our home. So we're excited about where this is all heading. And the best is yet to come, honestly. There's so much more to be done. And I think, if you look at some of the things that are on this presentation, which we share with you, you can see a little bit more in depth about the process. But also I want you to take your attention to the first slide. And on the first slide, it has the paradigm of leadership, which I think really exemplifies the next one, sorry, right there.
This one?
Next one, sorry. So I think it's second or third.
Oh.
Right there.
Yep. Thank you.
If you get a chance to take a look at that, because that really exemplifies what I think of Heritage Heights. You have so much love there, so many people that care about one another and about the kids. And I think that leadership is something they've been building in the kids at our school for a long time. And it talks about how, to be a leader, you have to first be a follower. And I see that happening definitely in the community. And I just have to say before I'm done talking here, if you guys have more to say, please feel free. But the work they have done over the last 3 years, they have been the ones that have kind of got us to the point of becoming a lighthouse school. So I have to give a lot of credit for the hard work they're doing for the last 3 years and all throughout last summer, and working with Gary McGooey, who we all know is, the kind of the master of leader in me, and he really helped us to get to this place as well. So it's a huge celebration, and we're looking forward to, we're hoping it was the spring, warm weather would come soon so we can do it outside, but we are working with our students, and we thought it would be most fitting that they were the ones that are part of helping us create the celebration for this huge milestone that we've reached. So that's pretty much it in a quick presentation. As I said, we could probably sit here for another 2 hours talking about it. But I think the biggest thing is that Heritage Heights, House Heights, whatever you want to call it, right? Our school, our community, our family is now considered to be a lighthouse school. So with that, thank you guys, and thank everyone for everything you guys have done.
Wait, I got a couple questions. Like, you can't
I was
leave
gonna come
without
back, I was gonna
questions.
say, now, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Questions.
Don't sneak out
Actually,
yet.
my first question is for Olivia.
You thought you were done, didn't you?
Olivia, you're very articulate and we appreciate you. I know it's not easy to get up there and talk to people, but you did a great job. What is your favorite habit and why?
My favorite habit is think win-win.
What's that mean?
It means that for example, me and my brother, we don't know what movies to pick sometimes. So we figure out maybe one day we'll do his movie, and then the next day, and then the day that we were doing it, we'll do my movie. So everyone gets to watch their favorite movie.
So what you're learning in school, you're taking home and using it at home too.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Welcome.
I want to congratulate all of you on this. I mean, I went over to Glendale when they were doing their review process, and it was pretty intense. I watched them all, especially Olivia and your team. I know it's tough for the kids. I mean, it's tough for the adults. I listened in on some of their questions, and I know. So I want to say congratulations to all of you and great job on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say great job, everybody. And Olivia, I wanted to thank you also for talking about emotional deposits, because I've been only told about the emotional withdrawals that I make from my kids. I didn't know deposits existed, and so I'll have to.
Deposit slip. They're not using Canva. That's the problem.
Yeah, so I'll have to. I thought I was running a deficit. I think I'm in the black though. I think I'm over.
You need an audit. So.
Good job. Great job, everybody.
We told Olivia is that we're telling her she was nervous in the beginning, and we said, don't be nervous, I said, just pretend like you're in front of your classmates in your classroom, right? She did an excellent job, and we're saying, hey, who knows, one day you might have a seat at this table.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So
You can have
future
mine.
And take back to your colleagues our appreciation, because we know the hard work. How many years ago did we do leader? We went through the course. Gosh,
7 or 8.
yeah, we kind of started with it and we know what a rigorous project, what process this is. So for you to have really delved into it and brought this far, congratulations. You really made all of us proud.
Thank you.
It's a very rigorous process, but it's also rare. Dr. Wilson, do you want to make a comment about how?
Yeah, so just last week, a team from our district was at one of the symposiums where we learned a lot. And one of the big facts is that only 3% of schools out there make it to the Lighthouse status level. And I like to point out, we have a family of 4 schools here that have that status. And so it is a big accomplishment.
The only thing we have left, and we're wondering if Olivia and the team would take a picture with us to kind of capture the moment and celebrate this great accomplishment.
What do you
Can we
think,
get a picture
Olivia?
together?
You up for it,
Get a
Olivia?
picture?
Sure.
All right. Well, Christine, where do you want to go?
Why don't we go by the mountain?
All right.
Oh, yeah, right there.
By the mountain. Put Olivia in front.
Okay, yeah,
Can we
Olivia's
scoot
gotta be
this
front
over
and
so
center.
you gotta be in front. Good job.
Right here, baby.
Mom, get a picture.
Come on down.
Come on over.
All right, we'll probably have to squeeze in more.
Yep.
Be a pretty wide picture.
Come on. Yeah, you're gonna have to act like family here. Somebody's gotta go in front.
There, Mike, I'll do you a favor.
These are all
There's nowhere to go.
I got my heels on
Because I
today.
can go in the
You go
back.
first.
Cheers.
You go first. I'll go back.
How about this?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Go ahead. I'm always bending. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job, honey.
Congratulations.
Thank
It's
you
awesome.
so much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the awesome work.
I think never a good thing. It
Yeah,
never
we definitely will. Yeah.
Just letting you.
Well, you hold the pose.
Thank you.
It's tough on your knees. I put this like-
Okay.
It's out there somewhere, Mary.
Wait, that's what this is for, because I'm a fidgeter.
Not knowing.
Right. But when I was young, they didn't
They didn't have
They
any of
didn't
that.
know
No. So you would just take your pen apart.
Can Olivia go home and work on her homework?
If Olivia wants to go home, she absolutely deserves to go home.
I think she's exempt from homework.
Unless you
Not
want to,
today.
unless you want to hear about our Smart Schools investment program, but
Bye.
Run.
Run while you can.
Mrs. Battle has to take.
Mrs. Battle, I'm sorry, you have to stay.
You're welcome.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for being here. I don't know how Mr. Feldman's going to top it, but we do have a presentation on our Smart Schools investment program. This is, we're hoping if you green light this moving forward, it opens a 30-day comment period, which is necessary for us to access the funds, because we do have a little shift in what we want to do to secure our security at the high school and the middle school. So I will turn it over to Mr. Feldman. You're on.
I just have one question. Christine, photo before or after?
We'll see how it goes.
All right. I just want my fair shake here. So yeah, as Dr. Genestri had said, we are here to present a little bit of a Smart Schools Bond Act update for you because we have made or are proposing to make an amendment to our overall plan. So I thought it would be best for board members that haven't been around since 2014, 2015 to kind of give you a sense of what the Smart Schools Bond Act is. The Smart Schools Bond Act was passed in the state budget in the 2014, 2015 year and approved by voters statewide in November of that year, which then kind of triggered over $2 billion in funds to finance improved educational technology and infrastructure across the state. And one of the things that is important to note, because this is kind of where we are right now, In April of 2024, the executive budget, last year's budget, this year, or actually this current year's budget, shifted the review of Smart Schools investment plans from an established review board to an administrative process that is overseen by New York State Education. That's important because it really has proven over the last year or so to expedite reviews and to get answers quickly about our Smart Schools investment plan. And for Sweet Home, back in 2014, 2015, our initial Smart Schools Bond Act funding was a little bit over 1.8 million, $1,891,997 to be exact. So when we build our Smart Schools plan, there are 4 categories that you can kind of address with the Smart Schools money. The first is installation of anything high-speed broadband or wireless internet. The second, to acquire any sort of learning technology inside of our buildings, things like whiteboards, computer servers, desktops, tablets, things along those lines. The third is anything to aid with pre-kindergarten programs, to construct space, things along those lines, to help work in the pre-kindergarten realm. And the last thing, the last category is number 4 there, is to address installation of high-tech security equipment in buildings. And that's really kind of what we wanted to talk with you about today. So if you hit the
Mr.
next
Solomon,
slide.
Can I
Yes.
just ask, because I have forgotten, does this include buses, cameras on buses, or is it not included like in this whole? Because it's not part of the physical structure? Can we use it?
I'm not certain of that answer. Generally, it's been part of the physical infrastructure in the buildings. We'd have to, it would be part of a review process. I'm not sure that cameras on buses would satisfy that review, to be perfectly honest.
And I don't want to speak for Don, but I think the funding we get
Something
transportation
else. Well,
aid.
after
Correct.
reading through this,
Yeah,
buses
correct.
were not mentioned, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking, with our electric buses coming and that kind of thing, we could add.
This probably wouldn't be the right funding source for something like that because of the aid we get back on anything transportation wise.
Sense.
And what I would say is any buses that we are adding, we're being priced with cameras already. So
Beautiful, thank you.
did you lose connectivity?
Yes, I did.
Ironically, we're talking about our,
There it is. There we go.
there we go. So what we are proposing tonight to the plan, we are looking to allocate $551,415 to an interior door hardening project at Sweet Home High School and/or Sweet Home Middle School. And the reason that I say that is that we do have, and we have worked with a vendor on pricing for door hardening inside of the high school, all of our classrooms and office spaces. And that number was less than the $551,000 number. So we've opted to include Sweet Home Middle School into our plan. We will walk Sweet Home Middle School after break to kind of get a sense of overall costs on that. I'm not certain we'll be able to cover all of Sweet Home Middle School, but I wanted to be able to, in this plan, address the middle school as much as we could with the money that is available to us. So the process is such that this $551,000 was initially requested and approved in our initial Smart Schools investment plan. And the process states that you have to first request and get approved a deallocation from one category to move it into another category. So we've been talking with Dr. Genestri, and this is something that we wanted to move forward on. And we did receive, and we did request to State Ed and did receive approval to deallocate the money, the $551,000 from student devices. We had that $551,000 earmarked in our original Smart Schools investment plan for student tablets, iPads, in our case, much along the lines of cameras on buses. We've used, in the last number of years, we've used federal funds, CARES Act 2, American Rescue Plan, to purchase outright iPads. And before that, before COVID and the pandemic, we would work to either lease the iPads directly from Apple or work through a BOCES project. So we're recommending, and you'll see this on Saturday, but we're recommending that we move back to that model, and we're going to purchase iPads, hope to purchase iPads, student iPads through BOCES. So the money that we would spend through BOCES in a BOCES project, we would get back roughly 59% of that in BOCES aid. So we wanted to get really honestly the most bang for our buck here. So this project would address all interior doors, classroom doors, and it would be hardened with a card access only lock. So essentially how you swipe into the outside door, that mechanism would remain the same in the interior so that we would assign levels of access to building personnel and staff to be able to allow to get into certain buildings from that standpoint. So the communication to the doors, we have a server here that are for the outside doors, but this works a little differently in that we would have wireless hubs inside of the hallways that the doors would communicate to. You can put up to, I believe it's 12 doors on each wireless hub that would allow swipe access, to those 12 doors. So those would be monitored in-house. And with this project, we would cover, again, all of the high school and a portion of the middle school. We have done our work here. Last year, we started this project, and we did kind of vet this plan and this process through the District Safety Committee in our last meeting of the 23-24 school year. So if you would hit the next slide, Mike. So this is just kind of an anticipated timeline, and this is a timeline that we need to follow in order to kind of work this process through and to eventually get approved, hopefully by state ed. So tonight we're sharing with you, and it's in your board packets, the preliminary Smart Schools Investment Plan, and we're presenting it to the board tonight with the hopes that you would vote to approve it next week, Tuesday. Once you do approve that, and things go through that way, as Dr. Genestri said, it begins a 30-day review period. So we would post the plan to our district website. We would welcome comments directly to me about the plan. And then on March 18th, we would come back at our voting meeting and do a pseudo kind of a public hearing. If there are any questions about the plan, we would address it. And then the board again would once again approve the final plan on March 18th, and we would submit that to SED by April 1st. They would review it over the next 3 months and through June with the hope that we would get the approval to start work in July over the summertime to attack this. So what happens is if we are approved, we would spend the money up front and then we would submit for reimbursement from that end of things. So Mike, if you would hit the next slide. So we're hopeful that, I guess, first of all, any questions on it, and we would hope that you guys would support us with the plan by voting yes next week.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. The reason we're looking at this project is really a security reason. For years, obviously, keys have been the way in and out of internal doors. And we're learning more and more about school safety and how important it is to lock doors, and to be able to lock doors at a touch of a button certainly makes the high school and the middle school more secure, but it also gives us customization and rules around who's allowed to access what areas, which I think is important because these systems are highly customizable. If someone loses a card, we can turn the card off immediately. Unlike if someone lost a key, we don't know where that key is. So that's really the reason why we want to change our plans around and do this project. We think it really adds to the security internally in the high school and the middle school.
I would just further that the reason that we chose the vendor that we chose to kind of work through, and again, this is all on state contract and things along those lines, is that they currently have our outdoor operating system, swipe system. And it also ties in very nicely to our mass notification system. So to Dr. Genestri's point, in the instance of a lockdown, with a press of a button, we can lock all doors in the entire building. So we're excited about the possibility. It is a heavy lift, but we felt as though that this was the best way to kind of take advantage of the funds and not pass on that expense to our taxpayers. And then I would also say, just kind of as we move towards this, depending upon how the numbers come out for the middle school, but certainly the 4 elementary buildings, we've touched on it with our architects and our construction manager to be able to do that in the next capital project.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yes, Scott, sorry.
2 things. Are you going to remove the actual key lock part of the door of those, or are they going to stay behind?
There'll be a core that you can still do a door lock, a hard lock, but we will not any longer hand out keys there'll be, the custodian will have a key, the building administrator will have a key, but it won't be
SRO,
a separate number of keys.
That makes sense to me. Is this process also going to include getting the electric up to each of these things to make the magnets work? And
They're wireless. It's wireless. It's honestly and again, the reason that we did this, the door hardware that we have in place and the jams that we have in place will work with this. So there's not an awful lot of work, and they're battery operated. So it's just, we'll have to do kind of a replacement schedule for batteries and maintain that. But the nice part about it is when a battery goes, much like your smoke alarms chirp at home, we get an email notice that says, go change the batteries in door number and room number 106.
Okay, so it doesn't use a magnet at the top of the door to hold it closed? Nice.
So that was my question. If we had a power outage or something, what would happen? But if they're battery operated, then.
Battery operated.
Awesome.
I have just a couple questions. So the middle school, part of it's going to be done, and then
We don't know the cost yet. So we're gonna bring the vendor out after February break. They'll walk, when we did the high school, they walked the entire high school and literally counted doors. How many doors? So then they'll give us a price and we'll look and see what we can do under this project. And we're gonna have to kind of try and phase it. And if we can't fit it all in here, depending upon cost, we might be able to squeeze it into the general fund, or it would be part of the remainder would be part of the capital project.
and we know how state ed is with their timelines, and sometimes they back us up. Is this a pretty realistic timeline?
It's funny. We struggled to get an answer on the deallocation of the money. But we've made friends in the Smart Schools Investment Review team that I have a note that says that they will do their very best to expedite this because they know that the work needs to be done over the summertime.
Right. And if for some reason it's not, can that work still be done when school starts?
Yeah, we'll just it'll be after school. It'll be, the ideal time is to do it, obviously on first shift and things along those lines. But the vendor knows that they have to work around our schedule. So however it shakes out in the time frame, the work is going to get done.
And you know how I am with computers, so I have to ask this question. With all the wireless stuff that's going on, can we handle all of that with all
It's
our?
on its own network. Yeah, it's on its own network. So they'll just have to be, basically what they do is they connect the hubs to a data cabinet. So we have to pull hard wires to the data cabinet to connect the hubs. And once it is, we're good to go.
My one question is, since we're using the same vendor that does our outside doors, is there a need to reissue tags, or is that all right on the same system with our, whoever has tags for outside? We could just adjust their tags for the inside or whatever hub they get in. So
the technology for our outdoor doors, it's older. The cards that we do currently use, yes, they can be used in this system. So I don't want to say for certain yes, but I believe that that's the case. Time will tell when we test it out, but I believe that that is possible, yeah.
Are there other schools in our area that use a similar,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
and they,
I've seen them at Lackawanna, actually, and,
Seneca.
very successful. Yep. West
Yeah,
Seneca.
West Seneca does them
Good.
too. So
Good.
we're trying to move in the right direction, and I believe using these funds the way that we're proposing is a prudent way to help us in our overall security.
So according to your timeline, it says you need it to be approved by us at next week's meeting. Does that mean you need a vote?
Say again?
Does that mean you need a vote?
Yes, it should be on the agenda. Oh, I thought I asked. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Cancel the picture. Yeah, we would need you to vote on it. Sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure
Good
that if
catch.
it needed to be there, it
Good
got there.
catch.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Feldman.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Sorry for my mistake.
I know Mr. Feldman mentioned Saturday, and I just wanted to mention that to our community tonight, that our Sweet Home Budget Workshop will be this Saturday at 8 a.m. right here in this room. We'll go over the first draft of a rollover budget to see where we are at. We have some initial revenue projections in now, and we're going to plug those into the budget, knowing we got a lot of work to do after February 8th, but it's a good start, and we'll kind of give an update on where we are at. So our annual budget workshop is this Saturday.
that
In
is
this
open
room.
to the public?
Open to the
right?
public in this room. Anybody's welcome to attend.
We can do my picture then.
It's a riveting experience.
Riveting.
And just, I know we're still in the comment period for our proposal for new start and stop times for starting in the 25-26 school year. You know, I won't go through, I left the slides as they were the last two meetings that were in here. We know we're incorporating 15 more minutes of instruction based on contractual obligations, and really to kind of give us cushion with state mandates for instruction at the middle school and the high school level. And we're still dealing with the driver shortage. And we tasked the Building Use Committee to come up with a proposal that would meet those requirements for the 25-26 school year. So again, I won't go through it all. I will say that since the last board meeting, I have received one more email. Here's the times that we're proposing for the 25-26 school year that would meet the requirements and help us with our driver shortage and increase after-school runs and hopefully after-school activities for our middle schoolers. The middle school would be going through the biggest change, obviously, moving their times to this proposal from the latest end time in Western New York. So we're, again, we're addressing a lot of the issues that we have in transportation with this proposal that the committee put together. I did receive, I updated this chart. I only received one more email since our last meeting last week, but it was someone that was in favor of the proposal as well. So I did update it and trying to address the concerns of our community. So I wanted to see if there were any more questions, comments, concerns. But we feel like, again, with the shortage the way it is, and with the incorporation of 15 more minutes, we really felt as a committee that this was a good solution. Nothing is perfect, and we know there are some major changes in here, but we really do believe it addresses our concerns that we've had since we went to especially a staggered elementary schedule. We really feel like we have no choice but to put the elementary run at the end of the day, considering it is door to door, and there are parental requirements to be home. With that said, we're ready to move forward. I would keep our recommendation at a 0.25 mile radius. We do believe, running our numbers, that will free up one bus per school, 4 buses in total. it's about a 5-minute walk to school. So we would stick with that recommendation of a 0.25.
I just have a quick question. Actually, if people want to continue to make comments, how do they do that?
They can send me an email, they can call my office, I've had up, 68 respondents, I believe, or I think I updated that, but 68 respondents. And so please, feel free to give me a call. And I've responded to everybody that is, with a personal email, not, we've heard your concern, but I've addressed each concern that has come in.
And I think it was last meeting, somebody asked about when we do that 0.25, how many that would actually affect? Did we get that number? Do we know that number?
It's different at every building, but like I said, it would free up one bus. So could be between 25 to 40 kids.
We do have the radius, Mr. Kennedy in transportation ran
We
the
have maps.
radius of the house, the areas that would be affected. I just haven't put in to figure out how many students and families that actually would impact.
Yep.
Yeah, I have, I think everybody knows I had some comments and concerns and I did get about a half dozen of text messages over the last week, just indicating some concerns. And I think, from my perspective, one is I do understand, and I've had also heard from a number of people within the decision-making, how challenging this is in terms of being at, like, I think somebody said, we're literally on a critical line here of not being able to provide transportation services to, potentially, having a day or a period of time where, we won't have enough buses. So I completely understand that. And I think what's important to me is that we are at least having a discourse, which I know we are, about this, because one of the things that was expressed to me, which was concerning, is one or two parents had expressed a sense that they feel that, this proposal is that they haven't had enough time to digest it, even though that because the times were just given more recently, even though they knew it was coming. I mean, my perspective, the concerns, I at least want to, I've mentioned this before, is I am concerned that, sunrise is like 7:45. So we're going to have kids now getting to school, and it's even probably going to be dark in many cases. So that is something that, again, just I think is important that we note. And on the committee, how many parents were on that? Because I think there was only one or two, is what I've been told.
Two.
And so, again, I'm just concerned as if out of the feedback we've gotten, it's, you said 68, if we take the neutrals out of it, 2/3 were negative comments. I think as a board, it would be helpful. What if 80% of our community is against this? What if 90%? I don't know that number. I'm wondering, would it be helpful to do a survey to say, okay, of the community, this impacts every single family. I know we've done that before. And I'm wondering, I'm saying as board members, we're going to vote on this next week. Do we have to vote on it next week? I'm not suggesting we put it off for, months, but I'm wondering, is there value to really knowing what our community feels about this and, on a broader scale? I think that if there's 50, if it's 50-50, that would be helpful. That's 90-10, that's going to be important information. I would feel like as a board, if 90% of the community is opposed to this, that would be concerning to me. The other thing is last year we went back 10 minutes and now, and in the high school, and now we're going back again. And, so I feel like we're moving in the wrong direction. And I mentioned, and I sent this to the board, the various pieces, in one of the pieces I didn't mention last week was the New York State Parent Teacher Association. They have a view that basically they're opposed to, or they're proponents of later start times, not earlier start times. You know, I mentioned the CDC, the American Academy of Sleep, the Academy of Pediatrics. You know, these are reputable organizations. And so again, it's just concerning to me, but while understanding we have what we would call a crisis here in the busing situation, but you know, I think, you know, these are real concerns, and it seems like the feedback I've gotten has generally been more negative than positive. It sounds like the surveys we've gotten, or the feedback has been more negative than positive, at least from what we're seeing here. So, you know, those are pieces. To me, this is a transportation issue more than anything. I don't, you know, and so I think about like last year when we voted and we didn't go to the tax cap, for instance, and this is more of a broader thinking and discussion, but I think these are important things as a board to consider. There are reasons we didn't do that. But, you know, when we're making those decisions on budgeting, if we had another 300,000 or whatever it might be that we could put to invest in drivers, instead of $22 an hour, could we go to 25 or 28? Instead of $1,000 retention bonus, or the bonuses that I think it's a retention bonus, could you go to $3,000 or $4,000? There's a concern then, well, you know, what other employees, you know, may feel that's unfair. They should feel that that's unfair, because no one wants to be, people do not want to be a bus driver. So bus drivers should get a premium. You know, I want to see our other support staff look at that and say, oh, you know what, I'm making this, I can make more, even more. At some point, this is a supply and demand issue. We're told that we held contracts, that the contracted services for Williamsville and the other districts, that was one of the reasons I was given as, you know, why they're able to do the later start times. But what doesn't add up to me is, I thought the reasons we are not doing contract, so we have more flexibility. Like, we are told that there's a lot of benefits and cost savings to not having the contract. Well, if there's benefits and cost savings, how are we not taking advantage of that? That's where, you know, like, it seems like along the way here, maybe there's a piece that is being missed. And I'm not saying that it's with the committee, but I'm saying, you know, a year, like when we're going into budget season this year, I think these are important things to think about to make sure we're trying to be proactive and ahead of this. And because, you know, some of those, like I said, some of the advantages that we're talking about, it doesn't seem like it's an advantage right now. It seems like it's a disadvantage.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. You're suggesting that if we increase taxes, we could move the time later?
No, what I'm suggesting is that the time, I don't think, by the way, that the time for the middle school, I do think the time for the middle school is too late. I'm saying if we have more bus drivers and we have more resources to.
But raising their hourly wage means we have to increase taxes.
Well, I mean, that could be, you know, if it's, we saying we are making these decisions like last year, not going to the tax cap. That was, we have resources. We're saying this is a crisis. We have reserves. I mean, there's a lot of resources. It doesn't necessarily have to be in raising taxes. There's a lot of budget decisions we're making. And this seems like a very, very big issue, you know, like, so you know, when we're talking $100 million budget that we're at, I don't know, like, if we could solve, I'm wondering, you know, what is the cost of solving this problem, or providing incentives, or to recruit more? I know we're trying to do a lot, but what I'm wondering is if there's any, if there's more we can do going forward.
When we signed the new service employee contract 3 years ago, we had the best rates. We've fallen down since then but we're still raising rates at 6% a year, which is a pretty significant raise. We're competitive, but we're not number one anymore. And when we were number one, it didn't gain us any drivers. It's just, I don't know why. No one can explain it. I've asked my colleagues why they aren't there, but we just don't have a workforce that wants to drive drive bus. And even the transportation companies have shortages. So it's not like, go contracted and we'll be fine. That's just not the case with our neighbors as well. So I don't know why there's a shortage. There's a shortage in other areas as well, but when we're number one, it didn't solve the issue.
So you could throw all the money in the world at it, but you've got nothing to throw the money at because there's no personnel, there's no people.
It's a personnel shortage. And that's, we've done job fairs, we're recruiting anywhere and everywhere we can, marketing materials. It's just, we have tried since I've been here, and we've racked our heads together over and over again.
It's not for lack of
I wish I could,
For sure.
I would come, if I knew I could gain 50 drivers with a $10, $20 increase per hour, I'd sit there and ask for it, but it's just not,
that's where probably I disagree. Like, I do think that if we're at 20, let's say I don't know what the number is, but it's probably around 22 to 25 in that range. And if the other districts, let's say, are 24, that would put us at number one.
We were number one.
But I don't know that it's not that we're number one versus them, it's that the entire market is underpriced. There is a number, is it $35 an hour, where we will start, where people would start saying, this is worth it. That's what, and to say, I'd rather do, because there are a lot of disincentives probably to the public to being a bus driver, a lot of reasons they don't want that, just like you look at electricians, plumbers, all these, they're demanding a much higher wage now because of certain economics and things going on. But, I'm not suggesting that, we have all the answers or that that's the answer. I think what more than anything is just wanting the public to know, there's a committee here that's doing its job and that we're relying on. But a lot of times the committee, the public is not seeing that discourse. And that's why I'm bringing these things up, because I think, to Dr. Genestri's point, where he's saying all the things we're doing and how we raise the rates and we were number one, that's important. And I know you've said that in the past, but I can tell you when yesterday I was at a meeting when a number of parents, that's a piece of information either they're not aware of or it's not on their radar. So again, I think it's just important to the public know that we are looking at all sides of this and that it's not just rubber stamping as a board. And that was the thing.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's an important point, that this has been, our building use committee has been together for 2 years. And I think this has been a topic of conversation for 1.5 years, knowing that we were facing these issues. We came up with plan after scenario after scenario. This has been an 18-month discussion, knowing that we were going to get to a place where, the 15 minutes of instruction is a must-have. It was a must-have, and the times were going to change anyway. If we just left things the way they were, that would push the whole schedule, and middle school would get out at 4:15, 4:20. We needed that 15 minutes really as a cushion, and we worked really hard with the teachers to get it. And it came with a cost. There's no question, a financial cost to it. So we have to have it. So we knew we were going to change anyway, but we took the time, I think, over the past 1.5 years to really try and come up with a solution that addressed our problems. And I think it's important, to your point, Mr. Leibel, that this wasn't just made on a whim, that this is a discussion with a lot of people in the room. I think there's 15 to 18 people on that committee that went over it and over it and over it. And again, I would say nothing is ideal, but we really feel like this addresses those issues that the committee was faced with.
So I've been on the building use committee since its inception. Back in the beginning of 2022. And at our very first meeting, we talked about busing. We talked extensively about busing. Every meeting we've had since then, we've talked about busing. It's a problem with our enrollment growing. It's been a problem. In 2018-19, we had 105 drivers. In 22-23, we had 53 drivers. It's a nationwide problem. We've been round and round and round. We thought that, you know, splitting the elementary schools may help. That is clearly not helping. I don't know what the answer is. I don't have the answers. All of the research that's been cited in the last 3 meetings is prior to COVID and social media. There's nothing out there after 2021. I have searched and searched and searched. I have asked my colleagues at work. I work in higher ed. I work in research. I've asked everybody I know, all of that information. The initial report came out in 1998. That is before devices. That is before social media. That is before this shortage. I don't know the right answer. But we have a fiscal responsibility and an ethical responsibility to our students and our community. And I for one, firmly believe that we've been through the gamut trying to figure this out, and this is one more try to see if we can figure it out, to see if this might be the right answer. There's no studies out there that compare the later school times positivity to the positivity of being able to participate in extracurricular activities. Both are very important, but unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to choose one. And that's where we're at.
So if we look at, for example, the pie chart, right, where it talks about the concerns for those not in favor of the proposal, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sections there. If this is something that we have to do, if it has to happen, because we don't have a choice, right?
We can't stay
How-
status quo on this.
Right. So how can we comfort our community who is upset about these very specific things? So I think the things that I know I've received feedback, and I know you've got yours all mapped out really nicely here. I don't have a pie chart for mine. A little jealous. So there's things that are obviously a stressor for parents, the work schedule thing. Parents are having to leave for work before their kids are on a bus. Like, I was a single parent for a million years, and that would have been something that would have pushed me over the edge. So I know that some of the suggestions that we have would be the Just for Kids Before School, which is not 100% nailed down just yet, but that is an expense to families. So that adds another layer of stress. We've got kids walking to school. Parents definitely have feelings about that. They don't want to hear it, that there are other communities around us that do that. That's them. This is us, right? So being able to comfort our community when these are things that they're stressed about, I feel like is extremely important. The 6 to 12 on the bus, you were mentioning that you had received some feedback about that. There are parents that are inside out about this. We can tell them that we think that our high school kids are going to be kind to the younger ones, that they're going to be mentors. We all went to school. We all probably rode a bus to school. We all know the things that go down on a bus. So potentially, right? I'm not saying that that happens here. But I think it would go a long way if we could have that conversation with the community to try to make them feel a little bit better about what that is actually going to look like in practice.
But I think that the point of the conversation, we're giving you 6 months of notice to help you
Work it out.
No,
work it out.
You
get
guys
it,
have
but-
This is the 3rd session. This is the 3rd week
because
we've
there's
talked
nobody
about
here.
this.
Right.
There is no one in the audience. And I hate,
understand.
I don't want to say that, but this was said to us in December. We had our 2 January meetings, and now this is our first February meeting.
But
There
I
were what,
can't-
3
I
people
can't
here
get-
last meeting?
I
and
can't
there's
get
no one
mad
here
at people
today.
for that. I really can't. 'Cause
But you want
again-
us to have a conversation with our community,
And I
and
think
I
that's
want to,
where-
but there's no one here to have a conversation with.
And I think that's where the emails and the phone conversations and all of that stuff kind of come in. Not everybody is going to come and stand here because we can't even have discourse. They come up there and they talk for 3 minutes, but we can't talk to them, right?
And I'll say, like, I answered every single email, and I can go through each one. Walking radius, we believe it's a 5-minute walk, and I answered that to parents. And people are concerned that not just about the walking radius, but about the fact that they might not be home at that point. And we said Just for Kids, and we're also exploring options with our teacher aides. But I don't know what the demand is, so I'm not promising that
Yes, I get it.
right now. As far as the early times, you know, the high school, it's, I know we've gone back 10 minutes and we're talking about another 4 or 5 minutes. I really haven't received anything from high school parents.
High
It's
school's not.
the middle
biggest
school
impact. Right.
are concerned. Those concerns about that earlier start time are, I'm about 50-50 on that because I've had parents in support of the earlier dismissal at the middle school. And so I've talked back and forth and have that discourse with parents. The 6 through 12 on the bus, we did a survey of districts that are doing it, and maybe parents don't want to hear that other districts are doing it, but we had, of Western New York, we had 24 respondents, 17 of the 24 have 6 through 12 on the bus. Sweetum's more unique in that regards, and I think parents like that. I'm not gonna lie. I know parents like that. But it's not unusual to have 6 through 12 on the bus like some.
Share that with people and
Sure.
maybe they'll.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
We are in a
and-
public
and-
forum.
And doing this here. So that's new information that we surveyed and polled this week. I want to thank Don for doing that, reaching out to his business official group. And we will have aides I've told parents, we'll have an aide on the bus. And when they hear that, I get, okay, I'm fine, you know? And so I think, and I do believe, and because I've seen it and I've been in a district that does it, that their older peers do hold the younger ones responsible, because most of our issues really are not the high school kids. They are the middle school kids. So, so while I've gotten a lot of thank you for responding to me back, which maybe we don't agree, but absolutely been personal emails that have addressed every concern of our parents. And so, I think, you know, one of the things and this is not scientific by any stretch of the imagination, but I really only got one email after the last board meeting. And I think if anything else, parents should know if they contact me or us or someone at district office, we will have the conversation with them. And anybody listening tonight, if they want to call me tomorrow, I will have that conversation with them. And, you know, it took a lot of time and effort, but it was all absolutely worth it to write everybody back. And so if someone feels like they can't have the conversation, it's because they haven't had it yet. They haven't reached out to me because I've had it back with them.
Can I ask a question? In the past, currently this year and last year, our middle school starts at 9:10 and our our high school starts at 7:30-ish. When you go from 8th grade at 9:10 to high school in 9th grade at 7:30, have we gotten any complaints about that?
I have not received anybody, nope, not one concern about that.
Interesting.
You know, I appreciate, Brian, that, you know, you bring up these points because I think it's important for the public to know that we are doing our due diligence. I do not want the public thinking that we haven't asked all these questions and that we haven't taken all their responses seriously. But when I look at 68 people responded out of how many?
10,000, I sent 10,000 emails.
Okay, so I feel that if people want to get a hold of us, they certainly know how to get a hold of us. And we're not going to make everybody happy. We've talked about that. I have a lot of confidence in our building use committee because not only are parents on there, but we've got the staff. We've had, Paul was on there, our union representatives. I just feel like if people want to get a hold of us, they know how. And if people have concerns about their kids and the radius, there's always the option of driving. I know they don't want to hear that either. They have to get to work. I understand that, but I was one of those parents that drove my kids. We're not going to please everybody. We have some amazing bus drivers that I don't know how much more we can ask of them. We have no choice. We can't leave it status quo. That is one thing that we can probably all agree on, is that we can't leave it status quo. And I think the longer we drag this out, parents need time to make adjustments. I think it's something we need to finalize so that parents can firm it up in their households and be ready for September.
and the one piece too, that the sleep piece, you know, I understand that. I've had conversations with Dr. Wilson already to talk about programming related to quality sleep. I think that's something that we need to talk about more, not only as a school, but as a society. Uninterrupted sleep, putting our screens down, putting our phones down. I think that's you know, and I think maybe that now is the time to have that conversation, knowing that next year we're going to have cell phone bans in our schools by state mandate. So I think there could be additional programming that we have to adopt, because that's a concern our community has, and we want to address that concern. So that's the conversation we've already had.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, two things, the sleep focus. That's been built into our Leader in Me programming. So Glendale has emphasis on that we've had them now share across the other schools around getting kids to track their own sleep and take ownership of what they need to be better during the day, and set goals around it. So kids are developing WIGs around that. Wildly important goals. And to go back to Ms. Battaglia's comment about ninth graders, they actually have our best attendance at the secondary level, ninth graders.
Just have one more thought too, on all this discussion about the times. I think one of the things with it's not that we haven't discussed it, but we've kind of lost sight of it, is that the school day is 15 minutes longer for everybody too. And that was a contracted thing that we negotiated. We've been trying to negotiate for a handful of years. And it's important because it keeps us from being right on the razor's edge of the minimum number of hours that we have to have contact time with our students, at least at the secondary level. I'm curious if this, for some, I don't presume to know where my colleagues are going to vote on this issue. If the vote was no, we have a plan for how we would do the hours that would still cover that extra 15 minutes. Or do we drop back 15 and punt?
Yeah, I think, thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Johnson. I talked a little bit about it tonight. There is no plan B right now, and that we basically stretch the day out 15 minutes at the 4 different levels of runs. So that middle school would get out later than it does right now, which would be a giant concern, I think.
So they'd get out at 4 instead of 3:45 like they do now?
4:10 instead of, yeah, it'd be after 4 o'clock, I believe.
You'd have to push their start back time.
Correct. Not just,
Yeah.
because it goes high school 15, then the 2 elementary runs that are staggered, and then the middle school. So you got,
I would just also add that if that were the scenario, there would be no after-school buses.
right.
So where does this leave us for voting on next week? Are we comfortable voting on it next week? I know there's been a lot of things. I know I'm ready to vote on it. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but is this something that we need more time, or have we pretty much exhausted all the
Well, my
comments?
comment was in terms of voting, I mean, I don't know that our votes are going to change. They could. I think it's helpful to know how the public feels. What I was hoping for, thinking, is getting more, we're saying, well, there's not people here commenting, or we only got 6. But again, relative to other issues, we're getting a lot of feedback. Aside from COVID and sports, this is the next biggest issue that I've gotten feedback from, in terms of, you look at how many people write into their congressman versus how many actually vote in an election. Just because you actually make a comment doesn't mean you don't have an interest or an opinion or one way or the other. So I do think, there's probably, and I think that part of I don't think that we can judge how the public feels just based on whether they're coming to a meeting or not.
We've
But
given them ample opportunity to get a hold of every single one of us, write letters to the superintendent. The district office basically have made themselves available. We've had months of talking about this. It's been out there.
I've gone to every PTA.
PTAs, I don't know how many, besides.
But how many
going house
parents
to
participate in
house.
PTA meetings?
But
You
I've
know,
also,
that's not-
it's also
that's
been in the
not-
newsletter and the Amhersby twice. It's going to be out again today, in today's edition. I don't, and we've been talking about it for a long
For a
time.
while.
Yeah, that's, but, well, again, my my perspective is I would rather, I want to have this discourse more than anything. I'm glad that we have, at a minimum, had this over the last 3 weeks. In fact, Amy, your comment about going from 150 to 50, I mean, that's a very meaningful point that probably a lot of the parents aren't even aware of. Now, is that, if that could be because they are not attending meetings or whatever the reasons are, and even us speaking about it here tonight, you know, how many are going to hear it? We'll still get feedback, you know, but again, some of this, even for us, right? We're digesting a lot of information, so it is helpful, you know, because that is very meaningful, right? I don't think maybe the public realizes the degree to which we've lost bus drivers, right? And that's been a big piece of it. I think it was helpful, you know, the comment of saying, you know, this is not really an issue for the high school students, doesn't appear to be. So, you know, from my perspective, this has been helpful, just the fact that we're talking about it, and that, you know, parents are coming to us, you know, not all of us or some of us or whatever, and they're asking these questions. They're saying, you know, why don't we pay bus drivers more? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? So, and I know we've addressed it before, but they're speaking specifically to looking for solutions to this answer. And I think the fact that, you know, we're saying here, asking the questions and the responses are, you know, we've addressed it because there's a concern. You know, when you have a committee, there's a concern or a sense of, do we, you know, just the public or some of the public is saying, well, did the committee look at A, B, C, and D? Now, the committee knows they looked at all those things, but, you know, sometimes people, you know, may only hear bits and pieces of it. So to the extent we can continue to have that conversation. Now, again, I'd be in favor of saying, okay, let's put a survey out there, see what percentage of our parents are for or against this. I don't know that, you know, that's going to change anything in terms of the way we vote.
But
So
Brian,
I would,
they're against it. The options are very limited. We have to do something. So our hands, I mean, we've been talking about this for an awful long time. And if we get a lot of people saying they're not for, they don't know a lot of the intricacies of this, and I appreciate that these are being shared, but we have to do something, and we can't let it go to the last minute. We can't stay status quo. We have to do something. Building Use Committee, represented by people throughout the district, have helped make, they didn't make the decision. It was a recommendation to this board so that we can talk about it, just as we've been doing. But this has been on the table for quite a while. It hasn't just been on the table for 3 weeks.
yeah.
So people could have gotten a hold of us.
I guess I'm wondering, why wasn't that ever, like, why wasn't that kind of a survey? Was that ever come up to, like, hey, let's survey the community broadly? Like, we've done that in the past. Or was it more a concern that if we were to do that, people are, like everybody has, as we've said, and I would imagine this would be a concern of mine, is that you can poke holes at any piece of this. And so, you know, sometimes if a proposal isn't perfect, people are just going to say, I don't like it. And so we're going to get an overwhelming number of negative responses, even though it could be the ideal solution, because they don't have the alternative necessarily in front of them, which is, you know, these are no after school activities and all the other things,
Information, the whole picture.
the whole picture.
That's why I was saying, like, how can we find out what it is that they're upset about and then make them feel better about it in the several months that we have until next year when this actually happens? Like, we've got a long runway to get the community on board with it, where they might not be feeling so great about it right now.
No, excellent point. And all I can do is have the dialogue and conversation and make plans that, which we've already started, like, as soon as we heard that before school programs are a concern, we called Just for Kids, and we're trying to work that out. This isn't I'll never operate and it's this way or no way, and you need to figure it out. We're always going to try and work with our families to make sure that they have a positive experience with us. And I'm very confident in saying that we have not poo-pooed anybody's concern that when they say, I want before school programming, we are going to look into that and do everything we can to get it. That's mainly at the elementary level. It's I've also had parents, a couple say, I can't believe you're pushing back the elementary time. Well, actually at Willow Ridge and Maple Mere, it's going to be earlier. And I've had Maple Mere parents saying we're pushing back the elementary. No, it's actually earlier. So I've tried to address that confusion as well. And so we're really talking about a change at the middle school, yes. But Heritage and Glendale are 20 minutes later than what they're used to now. And we can do things to address that. And we have. And, I'm very confident in saying that I've not said no to a parent.
I don't remember, it might have been you that said this, that sometimes people aren't always paying the attention that you want them to pay until it gets right to a moment like this where it's going to affect you, like this thing that's happening. And then they're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't paying attention in the months before this, but now they're faced with, this is what's happening.
And we wanted to make sure that there was a comment time, a comment period, that everybody knew that this was coming. They just, I had more people ask, they knew it was coming. They wanted to see what the times actually were. And I think that we were in a place back in January to finally give the times and release the times. And, we gave a month period to address it. But they knew it was coming.
I'm going to throw a little bit more about the building use committee meetings themselves. I've been on the team for a while too. The last meeting was obviously the one that Mr. Kennedy brought forth all the data that we were working with and we came up with these numbers here. The one previous to that, let me throw something else in there. Generally, when I sit on these committees, knowing that we're going to have to vote for it at the far end, I try not to say too much. I don't want to be influencing people thinking that that's what the board already decided, because it's not. Obviously it isn't, right here, we're having this discussion now. So unless I see something really out of order or really that I need information on, I generally don't say a whole lot. The one back in December, as we got through it, probably 2/3 of the way through the meeting, I'm like, no, there's just no way this is going to work. And I don't know which one of you was there in that particular meeting, how your feelings were about it, but that was just in my mind, there was no way that was going to work. I didn't say anything. I waited for my colleagues. And by the time we reached the end of the meeting, they decided, okay, we got to go back and do it again.
I was at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to remember.
I think I was thinking the same thing. The plan that went out, it was like, and then when we talked about it, it was, the committee talked about it and it was deemed that that wasn't going to, it just wasn't feasible for what was, even forgot what the plan was, but
Yeah, me too. I just remember Scott Kennedy saying that there was a possibility that if we put this plan out there, we might lose more drivers related to the number of hours they were going to get or create even more problems in the system. That was one of the things that was definitely bad. That I do remember.
And I hope our community understands this was not, I don't know how many versions of plans we had, but this was certainly not the only one that was thrown out there.
So I'm back to the question, what do we do from here?
I mean, I hope the board votes next week so we can have, because we have a lot of work ahead of us now. We have to
Really can't
plan out.
settle any of those things as far as after school or before
No.
school until
We
board
route.
votes.
We would like the board to vote so we can move forward with our comprehensive planning of routing, stops, radius, notifying families that they might be impacted by the radius, working on before school programming. We have a lot of work to do, but we don't want to do that until board approval. So we, as a district office and a building use committee, are hoping that the board votes on it next week and that we can move forward or figure out what we're going to do.
Is there anybody that's not comfortable voting next week? All right, then we'll vote on it next week.
And I just want to say, I appreciate the discourse. I really do. And I
Appreciate the
have felt
conversation.
that based on this tonight, there has been a lot of, it's been a somewhat exhaustive conversation. And I think it's been brought to light, even Scott, your comment about what's going on behind the scenes a little bit with the committee, it is helpful, right? Because we're not all in those meetings. And, sometimes there's maybe with people on the committee or on the board, it can be frustrating us asking the questions, but part of it is just to get comfortable
Right.
with the whole process that has happened behind it. And I can say, based on all the response and everything you guys have shared, I can see how much effort and not that I didn't trust that before, but I think it's just even more enlightening, that this has been an exhaust. And I feel like I've gone to a point where I was comfortable saying, can we push it off? But now I am comfortable, having it come to a vote next week. Clearly you guys have looked at this in a lot of different ways and a lot of different perspectives. I think, you've kind of satisfied the questions and the uncertainties that I've had or the concerns. So I hope there's no hard feelings on me pushing the envelope.
I want to say thank
on
you.
it.
I think from a district office and the building use, I want to say thank you for saying that. And I absolutely know our concerns because this impacts 3,900 kids and their families.
This is part of doing our due diligence
Right.
of
If we
this,
stand here and vote
yes.
7-0 every time, we're not doing
Yeah,
our
that's
job.
rubber stamping. We don't
That's-
do that.
It's been
And
good
that's
conversation.
And I wish I could explain. I mean, these hour and a half to 2 hour meetings, multiple times, multiple discussions. I wish I could remember all of it to explain all of the stuff we discussed.
It's been a lot.
Yeah, it's been a lot, yeah.
Okay, so, just a final reminder. Friday is the day for our students to get their Panther concepts into their art teachers. We've had outstanding responses so far. So, over 50 at the middle school, 50 at a couple elementary buildings. And then we're gonna work with the art teachers next week to figure out how the kids can vote on the top 10. And then we're going to get those all dazzled up and present them to our community. And vote on it May 20th. So
So
we're
do we
excited.
have artists from every school submitting?
We will have artists from every school.
Good.
We will have a final concept, at least one from every building. So every building is represented and then our community will get to vote.
I had a parent ask me, there's going to be a difference between a kindergartner Panther
Yep.
and maybe a 12th grade Panther. So
Glad you brought
how
that
do
up.
you allow that? How do you?
So so let's say Heritage Heights, because they were here tonight, they have a final concept and all the kids at Heritage Heights vote on, Jimmy's Panther and Jimmy's Panther wins. And Jimmy is a kindergartner, for example. So, not to, downplay the artistic ability of a kindergartner, but we have employed a graphic artist to work with our students to make sure that it is actual logo, school district. And so what they'll do is they'll work with the student and they're going to shape it in a way that it could be logo worthy for the district.
I do want to remind you that when Josh Allen got drafted and they asked him to draw the Bills logo, it looked like a potato with legs.
Yes.
And I've got it on a t-shirt, Peter's got it on a t-shirt, so that kindergarten Panther could be gold.
How are they gonna do the voting? Is it actually gonna be on the ballot that they use for the budget or is it?
We're working on that now. We're hoping that we can get it on the ballot, that they
Wow.
actually, a separate ballot
That'd be
item.
cool.
That would be cool.
And that anybody, can go in there and vote.
Yeah, with the intent that we would announce the winner the night of the budget vote.
So we're excited. And then just to kind of piggyback off what Mrs. Jason was saying about the Music Fest, great day on Sunday at UB. Want to thank Dr. Wilson, Dr. Kozakowski, and for working with our great music teachers to put on quite the show. We had amazing crowds. I think it seemed like the lower bowl was full for every concert that we had. We had 3 separate concerts that day. It looked great at UB. It sounded great at UB. And just a lot of work that went into it behind the scenes. And it really turned out to be a great day for our music students and to showcase their talents on stage. I think the best part about it for me is always watching our elementary students perform with our high school students in these mixed concerts, or mixed bands. It was just a great day. So kudos to everybody and their planning. And thanks, Mr. Morrow, for leading the music department, because it's just a great day for all of us. So.
Dr. Genestri, just on that, the music parents did collect about $1,800
Oh, wow,
for
good.
scholarships for the seniors class.
That's all I have for today.
Any questions for Dr. Genestri? Okay, moving on, we've got our upcoming events. It's beginning of the month, so all our PTA meetings are coming up. The middle school musical is this weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
Baseball.
Anybody going to
Meat
NHS?
raffle is this
I'm
weekend.
gonna try to go. Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
NHS
NHS
tomorrow?
I will not be at NHS. Chair has a competition. And that's where that is. Okay, open session for board policy 1510. This open session is for tonight's topics on the agenda. Is anyone interested in speaking? Thank you very much. New business. We will be voting on new business next week, special education and class placements for preschool.
Yep, just getting through 87 pages. I'll have it done by next week.
All right, then we've got our monthly financials, the internal audit report. Stop me if you have questions or comments.
Just a quick comment. Brian and I met today with the audit team, and it came out very well. It was do we even need a corrective action plan?
We need to submit a corrective action plan that says that you approve the internal audit as
There's nothing to
written.
correct.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it came out clean. It was great.
Is that gonna get rejected? That's the big question.
Then we have our first and second readings of policies. The proposal for UPK, an overnight field trip coming up for the basketball team, the start and stop times that we've spoken on extensively, the grant easement for Niagara Mohawk and Verizon, and then disposal of obsolete property. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Can you just explain?
Sports
So
coaches.
there will be an addendum that will list the spring spring coaches will be on an addendum to that agenda. We did add them today and want to get them on for February, because by the time March rolls around in the voting session, practices will start for the spring season. So wanted to make sure you had them so you could review them this week.
Can I just ask about the grant easement? I didn't quite understand that.
Sure. So National Grid reached out to us. Actually, Benderson Development reached out to us through National Grid. Benderson is leading the charge for the Costco
Right.
on North Cali there. So they are trying to run power to the site. They've asked the district and the Board of Education to allow National Grid to put a transformer on one of the light poles that sits on our property near Melot. So all we are doing is allowing National Grid to install a transformer on one of our poles to go back to the Costco for power.
Okay.
Interesting. That's a pretty good long haul.
I don't ask questions, Mr. Johnson. I just bring them to you.
What do we get for that? For allowing
We
them?
get to be a good neighbor, and we get Costco on our tax rolls.
Yeah. Man, your visit to Costco will be like 4 hours.
Speaking of Melot, can you just tell us when will they be out there to do the grass and make sure that that's ready for our teams?
Yeah, I don't know when opening day is.
Marianne,
but
it's
they're gonna
snowing.
be-
No, I know, but we gotta
Yeah.
think, that's, March is coming.
Yep, all of those materials will be
First
removed in time for
Saturday in
them to
May
get
usually.
ready for Saturday in May.
I don't know if that's exact, but that's normally,
Yeah.
Yeah, even later sometimes.
and yeah, sometimes later, but usually
later.
that's what they shoot for.
We have a meeting with them next week to kind of talk through some things about their facilities over there and to work with them to kind of spruce some things up. And if you remember, we did work an agreement with a local contractor that is bringing the stone to the Costco site, that they will resurface the parking lot in Melot. So we're making small improvements, but some of their buildings need some help. So we're going to kind of talk through that next week and come up with a plan, but we'll be ready to go. Our grounds team helps with the league to maintain their equipment, their grass equipment and things along those lines. So we have a good partnership, and I have no doubt we'll be ready to go.
And this thing that they're installing, I mean, that's not giving off like any bad.
There's a transformer on just about every pole that you walk under, Mary Ann.
I don't know.
Ones you don't even know you're walking under.
Yeah.
Panel on anybody?
Special Costco transformer. No, I don't know.
This one gives soft serve ice cream.
All right, move along. Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Any more comments or questions? Okay, that brings us to the second open session. Yeah. You want to speak, Jonathan? Please. State your name and address for us.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Makeley. I'm a community member live at 5 Durham Drive, apartment C. And had a comment that a couple of days ago I was checking on the school district website, and I had noticed that in previous years the website would typically have a page that would contain the key information on the upcoming annual school board elections and annual budget vote. But looking at it recently, I couldn't find that sort of page for this year, so I figured I'd bring attention to that, so that it might be put up if it isn't there already, or made more easily findable if it already is. And yeah, that's what I had to bring up.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll look
Thank
into
you.
that. All right. Personnel and teaching and administrative and service. We'll be voting on that next week. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We will not be returning.